as we begin to you talk about the 60s. I mean, you're talking about a crazy civil rights issue that black folks couldn't even vote then, okay? But we said God in the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on now. Jesus said the truth will make us free. The truth will make us free. And until we begin to recognize truth and embrace truth and challenge the truths that we have embraced, that we know are not true. Come on now, we're going to be jacked up. And all these things that we're doing in the name of religion, all the hate that we're doing in the name of religion, the hate that we're spewing in the name of religion, the racism, I don't even want to give credence to the hates by naming all the hates, but there are so many things that we have embraced to hate as believers that we've totally ignored the two greatest commandments that Jesus told us that we needed to fulfill. We're just like those Jews that Jesus was talking to who hated Samaritans. They hated Samaritans, and Jesus was telling them, you can't hate Samaritans and be well with God. And now today, since he's not now retired, you can't hate Muslims and be well with God. You can't hate gay folks and be well with God. You can't hate folks having abortions and be well with. You can't hate anybody and be well with God. It's simply like that. Well, I don't hate the sinner. I hate you hate the sinner. Come on now. Let's be honest. How did you feel during the war, during the Iraq war, the Afghan war, any other war this nation's been involved in? Do you feel the same pain when Americans die as when anyone else dies? Okay. And I'm not talking to the regular Joe citizen. I'm talking to so-called believers right now. We're supposed to be disciples of Jesus. We're not making it. We have to start at square one. Now, so for me, this is my frustration. This has been my frustration with the religion and the folks within the religion. You know, it's been a sort of a phrase. You know, I'm not religious. I have relationship or something. That's not true. We need to begin to question. We need to begin to challenge the things that we've bought into and ask ourselves: do they line up with the teachings of Jesus? And if there is anyone that you hate, if there's anyone that you don't love, you need to go take it to Jesus and recognize that there's an issue there. Now, for me personally, I believe that all mankind, we're all related, and this is what Jesus was telling us. Even the people that hate you, love them, because they may not realize it, but they are your brothers, and you may not realize it, but since I'm Jesus, just do what I say. Love them. Love them. We're all related. That's why you can love your enemy. That's why Jesus can be on the cross and say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He was talking about for people, interceding for people, time past, time present, and time future. And it's almost like these messages. I mean, I'm thinking I've been on the air for 5 years now, but this is what it all really boils down to. We're just some people, and we're confused people. We've bought into things that don't even make sense. And then when we're challenged with what doesn't make sense, our response is, oh, well, some things you'll just never know till you get to heaven. No. The stuff doesn't make sense. And that's it. That's it. We need to begin to challenge ourselves, check ourselves, to begin to ask ourselves, why do we believe we're it and nobody else? I can show you in Scripture, we're even talking about Israel and what's going on in the Middle East and how we've embraced Israel and how pretty much everybody on this planet is the Israel that is being referred to in the Old Testament and to the prophets. And that there's a difference between Jews from Judah and all the rest, which are Israel. And it's the Israel that's coming back home. And it's the Israel that was leavened. It's like leaven. It's like yeast. And there's just, but even if you go back and begin to figure out what we've bought into as it relates to our most foundational Christian beliefs, a lot of it is racism as well. Man, I should have my Bible here to be quoting the Scriptures right now, but I just didn't feel like it right now. It was just time to talk. And so, I'm on the air now, and I'm putting out this program and another program, and but they're really the only people that are watching this program for the most part. The religious programs are religious folks, either folks that have programs or people that attend or know the people that have the programs. What I want to share with you today is there's like 95 probably plus% of the population, they're not even going to church. They're not even thinking about it. And again, maybe it's a good thing, because why get even more messed up? Speaking to a gentleman recently who is doing a feeding program. As a matter of fact, today he's feeding the folks down in a particular neighborhood. I donated some meat, and companies and people all over donated, and restaurants donated to feed these folks, homeless people. But that's good. But then what happens after that meal's been eaten and the sun goes down, the next day arrives? What has that done, The particular church did its thing and got some recognition for doing such a wonderful thing. It'll probably be on the news tonight. But even in these acts of kindness, is this love? Is this love? And I'm not even, Pastor Martin always has an answer, it seems, but I don't have an answer this time for you. Because, it's almost like we cannot really function in love until we come to a different understanding, until our belief system is changed. We have issues that we're dealing with that we've ignored, and there are our issues, and we're suffering. And we sort of ignore the suffering and just carry on and continue, because this is just life. But there is a way to be well. But in order for us to be well, we have to release and free others. They have to be well as well in our minds. And until we free them from the negativity that we are holding against them, until we free them from the hate and from the prejudice and from the negativity that we have about them, we're not going to be free ourselves. It's important for us to release folks in order for ourselves to be free. And it's almost like the tighter we squeeze, the tighter we are being choked ourselves. And until we recognize the connection that we have with each other, we will never be well. Until we recognize that these boundaries, these barriers that we've created between ourselves, these religious barriers, these ideological barriers, these political barriers, these racial barriers, all the nationalistic barriers, all these things that we have done, and the barriers even from our nations, where we have the situation with Mexicans and coming over the border and how we hate Mexicans and all this stuff, until we recognize that there are no barriers on planet Earth, until we recognize that there are no spiritual barriers that join us, that we are all created, we are all of the substance, of the source of the creator, we are all related to each other, and what I do to this person is what is happening to me. The more I'm harming this person, the more I'm harming myself, and we don't know when it's going to let up, so we're squeezing and squeezing harder and harder. We're wondering why we're choking and choking. We got to let go. We got to let go. We have created the cages that we are living in. We are thinking we are creating cages around other folks, but as they're our own cages we're creating as well. We are not well. Let me tell you a little story. It's a little story I heard. It's probably 2,000 years old. It's about a traveler. It was a traveler that lived in India. And he decided to travel. He took a journey to Africa. And while he was in Africa, he came upon this place where there were hundreds and hundreds of beautiful parrots, just in this cove, just talking and singing and making noise, and just beautiful, beautiful birds. And he decided within himself, that I'm going to capture one of those birds and take that parrot home, and that parrot is going to be my pet. And so he does just that. He captures a parrot, a beautiful parrot, and he takes him home. And he takes care of the parrot, feeds him, sings to him. He treats that parrot very well. And then about 2 years later, he's going on a trip back to Africa. And he tells the parrot, I'm going back to Africa. I'm going back to Africa, and do you have any message that you want me to give to your friends in the jungle? And the parrot says to him, he says, yes. I want you to tell them that I'm very happy in my cage every day and every moment of my life, and to give them my best. And the traveler says, okay. And so he goes to Africa, and he goes and he finds the friends of the parrot. He tells them, he said, your friend, my pet, wants me to give you the message that he is thrilled. He's very happy in his cage every moment of every day. And he wants me to give you his best. And just when he finished telling that story, one of the parrots stood up, tears welling up in his eyes, falls over dead. At first he was shocked and thought, well, this parrot, that must be a friend of his, and he's just heartbroken because he misses him so much. And so he goes on home, and he tells the parrot in the cage what he experienced. And just when he finished telling him the story, his parrot in the cage, his eyes welled up with tears, and he fell over dead. He thought, man, he said, that must have been terrible, heartbroken, hearing about his friend's demise. So he took his parrot, he took him out into the trash heap, laid him on top of the trash heap, and as soon as he laid him on the trash heap, the parrot flew up into a high tree on a branch. The traveler looked at him and said, well, what happened? Why did you trick me like this? And the parrot said to him, my friend, that parrot back in Africa sent me a very important message. He said, if you want to be free of your cage, you must die while you are alive. You must die while you're alive. I told my daughter that story a couple of nights ago. Every night I tell her a story, usually Bible stories. But I told her that story. And it was sort of a quick story, and so I told her another story right after about Jesus talking to Nicodemus, trying to understand what it means to be born again. Couldn't understand the kingdom of heaven, and couldn't understand any of that. And Jesus said, in order to understand, Nicodemus, you must be born again. And Nicodemus says, born again? How can a man who is old be born again? Must I enter a second time into my mother's womb? And my daughter interrupted me. She's 5 years old. She said, Daddy, that's the same story. And she said, hey. I said, what? She goes, hey, that's the same story. And then I think she said, the same person told that story. It was very interesting to me. She got it. If you want to be free of the cage that you're in, you need to die while you're alive. Die to yourself. That's what Jesus was saying. To even understand the kingdom of heaven, you have to die. Die. What does that mean? Jesus talking to Nicodemus. Nicodemus, let me tell you about Nicodemus. Nicodemus, the Bible says, was a ruler of the Jews. King James Version, it says he was a ruler of the Jews. What that meant was Nicodemus was a teacher of the teachers. He wasn't just a teacher. He was a teacher of the teachers. He was a very intelligent, a very insightful, a very knowledgeable, and well-learned man. He knew his stuff. And he knew that his religion taught, that his particular beliefs knew that Jesus wasn't who he said he was. He couldn't be. There were too many things that didn't match, and too many things that didn't match up. Jesus was not the Messiah. Jesus said to Nicodemus, in order for you to understand, you have to be born again. In other words, everything that you have learned in this life, from this birth, all the way up to this point, we are the sum total of all our experiences, all the stuff that we've experienced, all of our knowledge and all. Jesus says, you're going to have to be born again. Everything that you've gotten to this point, that's here, but you have to be born again, just to understand. That's what I'm suggesting today. We have enveloped ourselves in all kinds of beliefs, all kinds of traditions, all kinds of prejudices and things that we know are fact and all this stuff. The things that we argue about, especially our religious beefs, and a lot of our personal beefs that we have with other people, other races, religions, sexual orientations, and ideologies, and all that stuff. You have to die. You have to die. You have to release all that stuff. And say, God, here I am. Fill me afresh with your truth. Birth me again.